start with the latest news on EgyptAir plane crash. A Greek military official says pieces of plastic and 2 life vests were found floating some 400 kilometers south of Crete. It was reported that rescue teams also found several bodies floating in the search area. The flight from Paris to Cairo disappeared from radar over the Mediterranean on Thursday morning. 66 people were on board. Egypt's aviation minister claimed the terror attack was the most likely cause of the crash.
If you analyze the situation properly, the possibility of having a different action or having a terror attack is higher than the possibility of having a technical.
Well, relatives of the passengers have been gathering at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, where the plane took off, and also in Cairo, where it was, of course, due to land. Here you can see the latest pictures from France, where families have been meeting with the French foreign minister. Friends and relatives in both capitals are waiting anxiously for any information relating to their loved ones on board the plane, which vanished from radars on Thursday. EgyptAir flight MS-804 left Paris just before a national air traffic controllers strike in France. It was the plane's 5th flight on Wednesday. It had previously made landings in Cairo, Tunisia and Eritrea. Its final flight was going smoothly as it entered Greek airspace on its way to Egypt. When Greek air traffic controllers made their last contact with the plane, the crew were reportedly in good spirits. However, less than an hour later, the flight didn't respond to repeated contact requests from Greece. Suspecting something had gone wrong, Greece tracked the plane via military radars until it vanished from the grid inside Egyptian airspace. It had been flying at a height of around 37,000 feet and had also made no distress calls. However, Greek officials have since revealed the plane was seen swerving wildly from side to side before radar contact was lost. Search and rescue operations were launched after it became clear the flight had come down. The plane's owners, in the meantime, have claimed that some sort of signal was received from the aircraft's systems a couple of hours just after the crash. But this has not yet been confirmed by Egypt's military, while the country's government says the plane apparently crashed into the sea. Well, earlier I discussed the security situation in France and in Europe in general with our correspondents, Anastasia Churkina in Paris and Laura Smith in London.
We are indeed at Terminal 1 at Charles de Gaulle Airport, where on Wednesday night at 11:09 p.m. this flight MS-804 did depart from this terminal towards Cairo. Just like in Cairo, relatives had been arriving here earlier today. Since the early hours of the morning, we haven't really seen any extra security here, which does seem quite surprising. All of this happens as hundreds of airport workers here at Charles de Gaulle, as well as Orly Airport in Paris, have been on strike since Tuesday, and this has been raising lots of questions about whether or not this could have been something that impacted the state of security, including here at Charles de Gaulle. It also has to be said that the airplane that did leave for Cairo, MS-804, was in fact parked at Charles de Gaulle for 90 minutes, an hour and a half here, after arriving from Tunisia, a country, of course, that is certainly considered questionable in terms of its state of security now, and experts have been asking whether or not this was something that might have led to not sufficient security checks, but of course these are just questions that are yet to be answered. We also have to say that we've heard that, according to French media reports, since 2015, up to 70 employees at airports had their security clearances taken away amid suspicion of what was described as radicalization. Of course, more to come on this as more security checks are continuing here at Charles de Gaulle.
Laura in our London studio, and Nastia mentioned security there. That's really the key word here, isn't it? It's been under a lot of scrutiny money.
The European security situation has been described as chaotic. People are saying that there are huge inherent kind of structural holes in European security, and it is something that has been under scrutiny of late. Of course, we've seen a number of major terror attacks in Europe and in the major European capitals. And after the Paris and Brussels attacks, reviews were looking into security, and they found that information sharing, for example, between agencies, both inside individual countries and throughout Europe as a whole, was very poor, that the tracking of potential extremists, people on intelligence watch lists across Europe, was inadequate. An example over in Berlin, where the local media were reporting that a cleaner had worked 10 months in 2 separate airports in Berlin, and he was found to have proven connections to Islamic fundamentalist groups. And what's more, that the authorities knew about those connections but failed to act on them. And of course, we know that the Paris attackers travelled both around Europe and also in and out of Europe, even to Syria and back again, on fake passports, completely undetected by the security services.
Who do you employ as cleaners, the menial jobs in all those buildings, and then how you value what the security liability they are. The procedure is so outdated, it's outrageous. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is something typically Belgian or whatever, because even France, with their so-called professional security service, have not been able to prevent all these horrible attacks.